Well, looks like we're looking at Sonic 1 on the Master System and the Game Gear version for a few brief moments. But let's be honest, folks, do you want to play this or this? Yeah, I didn't think so. So the Master System version it is. Now it's crazy to think, but I never even knew the Master System existed as a kid. So as far as I knew, the Game Gear versions were the only versions of the 8-bit Sonic games, and it really wouldn't have mattered because I only had a Game Gear and a Genesis as a kid. But I seriously thought the Genesis was the first Sega console ever. Yeah, I viewed it as what the NES was for Nintendo. I think it was because Sega really didn't market the Master System after the Genesis came out. But it was still going, and it would keep going for a few more years actually, but it definitely played second fiddle. I think it goes without saying the NES definitely received better treatment from Nintendo after the release of the SNES. So I couldn't find any sales figures, but I thought for sure Sonic 1 sold better on the Game Gear than the Master System, but it turns out there were more Master Systems sold worldwide. Now for the United States, I have no idea, so I don't really know which version of the game more people experience, but I kind of hope it was the Master System because it is superior, because of the much better screen resolution and the fact that Sonic does not have a nose in the Game Gear version. Yeah, that's right, he's noseless, folks. The poor blue bastard can't even smell his beloved chili dogs, for God's sakes. But if you play the Master System version, Sonic can thankfully breathe easily. So, what about this game? Well, it's an 8-bit Sonic game, and it's barely anything like the 16-bit Genesis debut, which was released 6 months before it. And that's a good thing, because who wants to just play a stripped-down version of the game? Now, you will start off in Green Hill Zone, and even play through Labyrinth Zone and Scrap Brain Zone, but things are completely different with some shared assets here and there, but the level maps are pretty much completely different. And let me tell you something, I think a lot of people really downplay the difficulty in this game. It's hard, and it doesn't help that once you get hit by something, you lose all your rings and can't recollect them. So yeah, that's certainly difficulty. And in all the third acts of each zone, with the exception of Scrap Brain Zone, you get no rings at all. So it goes without saying, cheesing most of the Eggman boss fights is just not possible. Wait until you guys get to the Jungle Zone boss for a real fight. Better prepare those save states because this shit is hard as fuck. Oh my god, is it a tricky fight. I'd venture to say it's one of the hardest boss fights in the entire series. And that's really saying something. And speaking of Jungle Zone, this is a pretty good place to talk about how truly absurd the game can be as you fall to your death countless times due to really wonky controls. Yeah, these controls are disastrous and you're expected to make this vertical climb. And if you fall below where the screen has scrolled up to, you're dead. And this is one of the few advantages of playing the Game Gear version because they fixed this, but not the controls, so you're not getting that lucky. The physics in this game are completely different than the 16-bit counterpart, so when you jump to a platform, it's not anywhere as reliable as in the 16-bit version. There's collision problems. And some jumps are nightmarish because Sonic doesn't move with the same momentum as the Genesis game, but I feel like the game was designed as if it did, and that's a real problem. I died a lot in this game, and Sky Base Zone is definitely one of those reasons as well. This game is lined to the brim with shit that will kill you. These fucking balls and these electrical traps. Oh man, you have got to be standing on the absolute right pixel or you're dead, and it's shit like this that's maddening. This game is very unforgiving, and I don't think this was done intentionally, but because the collision is just a hot mess. Now, is this game fun? Yes, but it's frustrating. I really do enjoy the level design and what they did to differentiate this game from the Genesis one, and that could be seen in Scrap Brain Zone, because this is the real Labyrinth Zone. Act 2 and Act 3 are actually maze-like and require you to actually backtrack to hit switches to open new paths. I have to give it to the developers. They did a good job reimagining Scrap Brain. If you're playing this game for speed, you're in for a surprise, because if you go too fast, you're going to be in big trouble, because you'll be dying really fast that way, especially in platform heavy stages like Jungle Zone. My advice to you is slow and steady wins the race. You can get your speed thrills in Green Hill, but after that, you really have to chill out and be careful. Oddly enough, you'll find the Chaos Emeralds out in the open with no need to enter into special stages to collect them, which is original and an approach I'm not opposed to, especially since we don't have to play some mini game to get them for a nice change of pace. And it's funny to think that this is only the second Sonic game ever created. So it's not like the Chaos Emeralds were particularly mandated to be found in special stages by this point, and this is something that would continue in Sonic 2 on the Game Gear and the Master System, despite once again the Genesis version having you obtain them in special stages. Now, there are special stages in Sonic 1, but they're even less important, with them only being a means of obtaining extra lives. Now on to the music. And you know how much I love the music in Sonic games, and it is really good in this game, and you'll hear the familiar opening theme in an 8-bit rendition of Green Hill Zone, but that's it. Everything else is an original composition, and what do I hear? Is that Janet Jackson's Together Again in Bridge Zone? Yeah, I'm not the only one to notice this, and no, this is not a Sonic 3 situation, but once again, a Jackson family member is ensconced in Sonic lore. As far as I know, Janet Jackson has never commented on this glaring similarity, but then again, I'm not surprised, because it took decades of speculation for us to get confirmation on the Michael Jackson collaboration for Sonic 3. If you ask me, someone probably heard the music in the game and played it off as their own idea. It was 6 years after the fact, and who was really thinking of the 8-bit version of Sonic 1? Speaking of Bridge Zone, Act 2 is the first ever auto-scroller in the history of the series. So, there's a fun fact. I'm not really annoyed by auto-scrollers or this zone, but what is annoying is it looking like you can't quite make a jump on one of these seesaw-like devices, and somehow you can. Like I said, this collision is quite questionable, to say the very least. So you get to Act 3 of Sky Base, and Jesus Christ, this makes the Genesis final boss fight look like a tickle fight. Because, man, this is such a pain in the ass. If your timing is off by a split second, it's a done deal. This fight feels very clunky, like you have to get lucky because that laser wall is hard to avoid. It definitely feels like a true final boss compared to what we got in the Genesis version. Okay, so that about does it. Sonic 1 is worth playing. It's got a lot of frustrating moments, but it's definitely worth the experience. The game's been released a few different times, but besides on the Wii's Virtual Console, it's always been the Game Gear version. So I'd advise you guys to do as I did and use an emulator, because I doubt you have a Master System laying around. So guys, let me know what you think in the comments down below. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Click the bell to get all notifications when I post all my new videos. Hit the like button if you liked the video, and hit the dislike button if you fucking hated it. And if you guys want to give me a donation on Patreon, I would greatly appreciate it. And thanks again for watching, guys. I'll see you next time.